Team Canada and Team Japan are going to be taking place as a part of the offering from the World X Cup. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about that, but I do like the idea. Team Canada, Team Japan, Team Mexico. Who deserves some of the credit for this World X Cup concept that you guys were trying here?
That would be me. I was a
Okay.
big, yeah, I was a big believer in, we tried, we succeeded in some things, failed in others, but I wanted to give that X division going back to how are we different? How can we present things different? And so when you put, Team Mexico, Team Canada, Team USA, Team Japan, it gives, you know, whatever international flavor you can get. The Olympics is probably the easiest analogy that, every 4 years, the world comes together and there are individuals that you've never heard of before, but since they're from, you know, whatever country, you identify with them and you connect with them and everything with that. And, ironically, Team Canada, Jack Evans, Teddy Hart had floated around. Obviously, both of those guys probably had a little bit more indie cred, if you will, but things didn't work out. They were booked elsewhere. And when we landed on these four guys, when I look back now, I knew they were good talent, but my gosh, what a real nucleus of um, multidimensional. But the early X division, when you just showed a couple of pictures: Jerry Lynn, Chris Daniels, Bobby Roode, Eric Young. Team Mexico had AAA stars. Team Japan, so just it was diverse, and it really did. It set the X division apart in programming because we could have singles and tags and 8-mans and 6-mans and different gimmick matches. But it elevated, in my opinion, the X division because it highlighted just how athletic those guys are.
We haven't spent a lot of time talking about Jack Evans and Teddy Hart. They did have a big reputation for being, um, well, kind of the Young Bucks before the Young Bucks were a thing, as far as just the spectacular stuff you could see from an aerial perspective. I mean, a double moonsault was a thing that people started talking about because of Jack Evans and Teddy Hart. But it did feel like they had, I don't know if attitude problems were the issue, but you certainly read about in newsletters where there were whispers that, hey, they weren't easy to do business with. Was that your experience, or were they just simply in high demand?
Well, I think there's two things: high demand, and so the reality is we couldn't offer even an AJ Styles. We were doing 1 day a week, and so the reality, A, they couldn't give us top billing or top priority, and B, would we have wanted that because their flights were super expensive and to get them in to commit and full time and all that. So it just never worked out. So Jack for quite a while. I mean, he worked, in my understanding, really as much as he wanted, and that goes without saying that. Okay, if you do that, you're in demand. But I'm not saying that he was booked 30 nights a month. But neither one of those guys during this era had trouble filling up their calendar, but it worked to our advantage.
It is interesting to think, with all that spectacular stuff that you were seeing Jack Evans and Teddy Hart do. I remember as a fan, I was kind of disappointed that they weren't going to be a part of it. But then when Petey Williams broke out the Canadian Destroyer, Teddy who? I was like, wow, I never seen anything like that before. And I don't think Dave Meltzer had ever seen, I think it's called the Tower of Doom. It's like a double suplex off a guy's shoulders. And he just raved about it in the newsletter. Would this would have been one of the first times when Team Canada here is pulling that move off that you've seen that spot, or is that an old spot we just hadn't seen before?
Well, and look, it's I guess you could say I don't know what I'm never one of those guys that know exact, but a Tower of Doom is essentially getting more than there's the picture. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys involved in a spot, and it's one big, massive power bomb suplex off the top, and when I tell you, Conrad, and I think some of this is Well, all of it is somewhere or another. You can watch it up, but you got to go out of your way. Today's topic is obviously Eric Young, but in this series of matches, the Nashville Asylum crowd would come unglued, and Eric's energy and I don't know. There's a guy that plays for the Seattle Seahawks right now, Conrad, called DJ Metcalf, and they see some. You see some stuff that's gone viral on his athletic ability, and you go, "Oh, okay, he's not like us. He's super athletic." AJ Styles in his early days, before he became so polished and grew and character development, all everything, but he relied a lot on his athletic ability. A lot of nights you would just go, "Okay." He is on a different level athletically. I think right now we're seeing Will Ospreay, but the other night Takeshita, Ricochet has shown his athletic ability, but Eric has during this era, his athletic ability kind of jumped off the page in these tags or 6-mans or 8-mans. But the thing that I noticed, Dutch Mantel noticed, the crowd noticed, is that not only is he athletic, but man, the charisma in his reactions, it just set him apart from Team Canada in a good way. He just super, super charismatic. And I don't want to give analogies like Terry Funk or different folks, but Eric had his own style, and you felt his emotion, whether it was happy, sad, glad, angry. He's in agony, he's in pain, whether he's scared, everything. He really knows how to convey energy.
He really, really impressed Dave Meltzer. There's consecutive observer issues where Dave says something like, let's see if I can find it here.
He puts him over.
Young takes great bumps. And then the next week, Young took one of the greatest bumps anyone had ever seen.
Okay.
And this is where we're starting to form a tag team of Eric Young and Bobby Roode. And they're going to have a great series of matches against America's Most Wanted. We know that Dave was really high on Eric Young's bumps. And I know a lot of days you hear, or a lot of times now, these days, you hear veterans say things like fundamentals. And I know that annoys a lot of the new generation. But Eric Young seems like he's impressing people with his selling and bumping and fundamentals. Who else was becoming a big fan from an office standpoint in TNA behind the scenes?
Everyone, honestly, it depended on what era we're specifically talking about. But I honestly can say that there were just breakout performers, and I'm not downgrading flat back bumps or knowing how to work a basic match and the fundamentals of, I wasn't around, but it was my understanding, maybe class 4, class 3, class 7. I mean, Eric's first few classes, he caught on to wrestling immediately. So the fundamentals, I guess the most simplest term would be, they came naturally to him. Very, but again, it depends on. It's like hearing different music. A lot of folks will you're hearing the same song, but everybody interprets it differently. Dutch, early days, I can draw money with that guy. It would be his kind of comment. You got to give JB. We're going to talk about JB in this episode because he was the producer, editor, the Predator, as far as produce and edit, and he shot it. A very, very kind of a breakout scene. But JB would come like, damn, he was entertaining. And I just looked at it and when you put a group together, the feeling that I always got, and it was taught to me, and you just like, can I say this as a truthful statement? When you put, well, my old group, have a little fun here, but when you put Rick and Tully and the Andersons together, I don't think anybody would ever say, that's weighing Rick down. He doesn't need those guys. No, those four made everybody better. Now, obviously, you had JJ Dillon. I looked at Team Canada that way. I love Bobby Roode. We've talked about that on an episode when he did a promo backstage, and I was producing it. So I was right by the cameraman, and Scott was in my vicinity, and Bobby Roode let out a hell of a promo. And I think it was after he'd had a match. I looked at Scott and I said, "Are you ribbing me? WWE really passed on this guy. You're telling me he's not signed? Well, when those four guys came together, it was like they made everybody better. The whole team got lifted. Yes, they're all well, Petey's not Canadian, but the whole team got lifted on the branding. But Eric had the charisma, and those four guys put together made the group special.